Standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is our country, and we think it's amazing. From high tea to the high street, we love it all. Even the rain, we like that too. There's nowhere else we'd rather be. That's why we're here to be the fearless champion of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we are GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to Lee Anderson's Real World. I'm Lee Anderson, the Reform UK Member of Parliament for Ashfield. And on tonight's show, we have former Labour Minister Stephen Pound, writer and broadcaster Emma Wolfe, former Labour Party advisor Matthew Torbett, and one of the famous five, that's Marcus Harris. First, let's go to the news.
Very good evening to you. The top story tonight, breaking news. A 31-year-old Iranian man has been arrested in northwest London under the National Security Act. It's the latest move by UK counter-terror police. It follows the arrest of another 3 Iranian men in the capital on Saturday, linked to the same investigation. Separately, 5 Iranian nationals were also held across England over a suspected plot targeting the Israeli embassy in London. Iran's foreign minister, though, has denied any involvement, accusing unnamed parties of trying to provoke escalation. The Metropolitan Police says operational reasons prevent it from revealing any more at this time, but is urging the public to remain vigilant. A former BBC bargain hunt expert has admitted failing to report £140,000 in art sales to a man accused of financing Hezbollah. 53-year-old Ochukwu Ojiri pleaded guilty to 8 counts under terrorism laws, marking the first prosecution of its kind. The court heard he sold directly to Nazim Ahmad, who was sanctioned by the US and UK for links to the prescribed group. Ojiri discussed the sanctions with others and failed to act on compliance advice. 2 men have been found guilty of cutting down the iconic Sycamore Gap tree in Northumberland. Daniel Graham and Adam Carruthers caused £622,000 worth of damage to the landmark and more than £1,000 to Hadrian's Wall. The pair felled the tree in under 3 minutes after driving 30 miles through a storm last September. Footage, voice notes and photos found on Graham's phone helped convict them at Newcastle Crown Court. They'll be sentenced in July for what police called a mindless act of vandalism. And the Prime Minister is set to unveil the UK's largest ever sanctions package against Russia, targeting up to 100 oil tankers. He says Britain must do everything in its power to dismantle Putin's shadow fleet. The tankers, accused of breaching regulations, have carried more than £18 billion in cargo since early last year. It comes as Sir Keir Starmer has today been meeting European leaders in Norway to bolster support for Ukraine. 10 nations are expected to announce further aid. That's the news on GB News. I'll be back with you at the top of the hour. Now, though, it's over to Lee.
Welcome to Lee Anderson's Real World. I'm Lee Anderson, the Reform UK Member of Parliament for Ashfield. And this week we saw Sir Keir Starmer coming into the chamber. I think it was Wednesday this week. He was got his chest puffed out, bragging about some trade deal, guys, they'd done with India. Now we've got Stephen Pound, our political expert and writer, broadcaster, journalist, Emma Wolf, on the show tonight. But Stephen, sure, I mean, this trade deal, it's we've been talking about it, me, Nigel and Richard and James and our new MP, obviously, Sarah Poachin. This is a disaster. This is letting thousands, hundreds of thousands of people in this country from India, they're not paying no national insurance. Surely this is discriminating against our own workers.
You could not be more wrong. This is a deal. I mean, Kemi Badenoch was desperate to get exactly the same deal. Don't forget when she was Trade Minister. Look, we have this same deal with about 17 other countries. India is one of the fastest growing economies in the world. It's the biggest importer of whiskey anywhere in the world. America is no longer a stable partner for us. We are now locked out of Europe. Who are we going to trade with? Let's trade with the people who actually have a growing economy. As far as I'm concerned, this is people are going to come here for 3 years, and these are people who work for Indian companies already, so they're not taking any jobs from Brits, and they're not paying national insurance the same way that there's 17 other, the same deal we have with America. Because, let's face it, you pay national insurance for your pension,
Stephen, how many's going to come?
There's not a cap on it.
Exactly. He's answered, he's answered the question. Emma, no cap.
Lee, if this is Keir Starmer's response to getting an absolute kicking in the local elections over mass, uncontrolled immigration, his response is to basically introduce more immigration.
Yep.
If this isn't good for Indian workers, if this isn't good and cheaper for companies to employ Indian workers, why then did the Indian government absolutely hail this as a massive win? The fact is, we can quibble about the details, who pays national insurance where, but as UK workers and as UK employers, national insurance and jobs taxes has gone up in this country. The response? Make it easier for Indian workers to come in. And there will be many graduates who go and work at Indian companies who will not be employed. Indian workers are going to be coming into this country. They're getting a leg up against our British workers. They will be coming into this country. Do you know the nationality that overstays their visas most?
Let me guess.
Is Indians.
Yeah.
That
Stephen,
is a fact.
why do
actually, it's Sri Lankans, but never mind.
But Stephen, why do we need all these workers coming from India to our country?
Well, hang on a second. We don't. This is Indian companies based in India paying tax in this country who want to have their staff, like Tata, who own Jaguar Land Rover, who own Tetleys. They want to have their own people working in their head offices. We will still have British people working on the production line.
Why do we need them in this country? Why do we need these Indian people?
But if they're based in Britain, why can't they employ British workers?
Lee, it's a deal. The idea is India has actually dropped the tariffs on Scotch whisky, even things like farmed salmon. All these things which we can now sell to India at a much, much reduced tariff rate.
Do you think it's fair?
Better for the British economy.
With the greatest respect, it's great that this is good for the whisky industry, but that is not the primary concern for the cost of living crisis that we are going through at the moment.
Well, it is in Scotland.
No, I'm really glad for the whisky industry. That is good news. But there are bigger concerns right now. People will be coming to this country, they will be bringing their wives and large families, they will be getting a leg up and they will be overstaying.
Where are they going to live, Emma?
Where are they going to live? Where are they going to get the healthcare? Where are their children going to be educated? I'm sorry, Stephen, you haven't answered any of those questions. We don't need more immigration, we need less. We need to get a handle on this.
There's no entitlement to housing whatsoever. Secondly, they pay...
Where are they going to live?
Hang on, they pay an NHS surcharge, and thirdly, they do not bring their family.
Stephen, where are they going to live?
In the company houses that are provided...
Company houses?
Yeah.
Sorry, are we going back to the 1920s? What are these company houses?
Just making it.
No, the company pays for the accommodation.
These company houses?
The company houses.
Oh, right, yeah.
The company pays for the accommodation. Simple as that.
Yeah, what accommodation house? These are houses what British people would normally live in. Yeah? Am I right, Emma?
No, they're company houses. They're attached to the factory.
They're going to live in the factory.
Yeah, yeah.
But surely, Stephen, you can't defend this. This is madness.
Can you honestly say that we're actually holding up a trade deal because there's a couple of houses somewhere that might have gone to an English family going to a temporary occupation by Indian workers?
Stephen,
you cannot throw one of the biggest trade deal we've done since we left the EU out the window because somebody might have lived in that house.
OK, when we talk about the greatest trade deal we've done since Brexit, let's just actually look at what this does. It adds around 0.1% on GDP by 2040. So in 15 years' time. That is pretty pathetic. If this is being hailed as an economic triumph, this government needs to just resign and walk out right now.
Doesn't say a great deal about what a disaster leaving the EU was. If this, the biggest trade deal we've done since...
That's irrelevant. That's irrelevant.
0.1. What a disaster it was.
We have a problem with mass, uncontrolled immigration, and the response of this government, rather than listening to people's concerns, or vote. What people were responding to. In the local elections, you can laugh at...
And yet this government is deporting more people than any other government.
To import more people.
That's a fact.
Listen, Stephen, I'll give you some facts, because you need to stop spouting this nonsense on this show when you come on. Because the people that they are deporting are overstayers. They're people that's come here legally. They've overstayed their visa or their spouses or whatever, and they're being paid £3,000 to leave this country. They're going voluntarily, and not one of these people that they've deported, the 20,000 they keep bleating on about, has come over on a small boat or in the back of a lorry.
A great deal have been deported back to Albania, who did come here on small
straight away. But Stephen, surely you have to admit, at the very least, there should be a cap on the amount of people coming in.
But it's up to the Indian companies. If they want to employ their own people over here and pay income tax in this country, are we going to say we're going to throw the whole trade deal out the window because, you know, it's a couple of hundred people more than that? We're talking about tiny numbers.
Stephen, the point is it makes it a lot cheaper, 20% cheaper to employ Indian workers in this country, plus lower wages.
Sorry, we're talking about the head office staff of major Indian companies. The head office, we're not talking about the people on the production line at Jaguar Land Rover will still be Brits. The people who are actually working at Tetley Tea will still be Brits. What's the problem here?
How do you know that, Stephen?
Because I've been to there. I've been to Tetley's in Greenford over and over again, because that was exactly my concern.
Places like
when Tata took over Tetley's, I was afraid that Greenford jobs would go. I've been up there. That ain't the case.
He's been there.
Oh, he's got company houses there.
Yeah.
Look, the point about companies like Technis, which you point out, are that they often employ highly skilled graduates in this. I know British graduates who say, well, those jobs will go to Indian graduates.
Of course they will.
But we are in Britain. If you choose to base your company in Britain, why not contribute to the British economy? Why not employ British workers?
Well, they do. They pay income tax in this country, and they do employ British workers. End of.
So why are the Indian government so cock-a-hoop about this deal?
Because it suits them to actually have major companies having a good connection with this country. They see us as a trustworthy trading partner for the future.
How many Indian men and women now will come into this country on the back of this shocking deal from Starmer?
It just makes us look even more open borders. It makes Britain an extremely attractive place to come, to bring your families, to live, to get fantastic healthcare, education, all for free. And I'm sorry, British workers are struggling right now. Our economy, whatever they say, our economy is on the skids, and we need to focus on our country, and we need to support.
It's going to be
workers.
tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands.
Let's stop talking down the British economy. Our job
We're not talking down the economy.
Emma's talking about the economy being on the skids. We have job vacancies in this country at the present time. It's not as if we've actually got more people than jobs. We've got more jobs than people at the moment. And for years we've had Japanese companies that come over here. You know, people sending their workers here. Americans, French, Italians. A lot of people come here on a temporary basis.
Stephen, I know.
Good for the economy.
Stephen,
they pay tax here and they contribute to our economy. And we actually get a lot in return. Let's not forget that.
Stephen, I have friends in their 30s who are living at home with their parents. They're living with their spouses and their children. British friends of mine, I think that is wrong. I think that British people just should be able to bring up a young family and expect to have work and to have a house and to be able to get an appointment with their doctor. That is all we are saying. Immigration is out of control. The country is full.
Stephen,
thank you for endorsing Labour's policy of building more houses. I'm grateful for that.
Stephen,
we'll
Starmer has said time and time again at that dispatch box that immigration is out of control. He's signed a deal that's going to make it even more out of control.
We're talking about people coming here for 3 years maximum.
No, they will overstay. We have
Lee,
the facts.
we've been doing this since 1945. What is the issue here? What is the problem?
Look, we're going to have to stop this conversation right now. Time is up, guys. Coming up next, we've got Real World, Real People with Matthew Torbett.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Well, wine. First, it was screw caps. That was very controversial, but we've all accepted them, haven't we? And now it's paper or cardboard bottles instead of glass bottles. Wine connoisseurs will get terribly upset about this, but will we all accept it one day? Probably. What's the sense behind it? Here it is. And it is, actually. There is no glass underneath that. It is cardboard.
Yes, it is.
Extraordinary.
It's called When in Rome, a Pinot Grigio, and it says on the front, I have, and King Charles would love this because he loves all things sustainable, and it says on the front of the bottle, 6 times less carbon dioxide, planet-friendly wine. Oh, there we go, Pinot Grigio. So, does wine in a paper bottle taste as good? Let's test.
Hang on a minute, are you just going to talk about it, or are we going to see the water come out?
Should we see it come out? Well, I was going to introduce Malcolm
I want
as
to
well.
taste first, so
OK, we'll taste it first. OK, here we go. We'll pour some.
This is Pinot Grigio.
Pinot Grigio, nice colour.
Very nice colour.
Lovely colour. There
Looks
you go,
good.
there's one for you.
Oh.
How does it smell?
Well, it's rotten at 8:26 in the morning.
I was going to say, I don't usually drink at 8:26 in the morning, but I will make an exception for
Now,
this.
there's interesting. This is something we will ask Malcolm. It's warm, obviously, because it's been in the office all night.
Yes.
Right? So if you wanted to stick that bottle in an ice bucket...
Yes.
Would it disintegrate? Let's ask him. He's the CEO of Frugal Pack, Malcolm Moore. A very good morning to you. Cheers.
Cheers, Malcolm.
Good morning. Cheers. I'm rather envious. Well, behind me, I've got quite a few bottles, but it's a bit early for me to start drinking wine.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Lee Anderson's Real World. Let's find out what some real people are thinking in the real world. I've got Matthew Torbett with me today. So, Matthew, you're a former Labour Party advisor. Won't hold that against you, but you're quite a sensible guy. But you got into a spot of bother when you left school in your teens. And what happened then?
Yeah, so I'm the eldest of 4, and I always think the eldest get it a little bit tougher. You're like the trial child. My brothers and sisters got it a little bit more lenient than I did and whatnot. And me and my mum and dad didn't really get on, essentially, and I think they were trying to get to grips with being parents in a way. No one writes a manual for it or how to do it as such, and you learn as you go on. and I was a bit of a rebellious teenager, and it essentially culminated in... Well, no, not... I answered back a lot. There was lads at school, you know, they'd be into drugs, drink, scrapping, whatever. That weren't really me. I was just, I knew everything, like lots of teenagers, you know what I mean, and struggled to sort of do as I was told. And it culminated in my mum booting me out. She kicked me out. And
how old was you?
Nearly 16. I was 15 going on 16. Yeah. And she'd had enough, and, you know, I think she... like lots of parents have their own issues as well, and you know, she needed to sort of deal with them in a way. And I slept on the streets of Manchester for 12 months, which is, you know, was sort of an experience in itself. Regular occurrence, being beaten up, being urinated on, getting ill, feeling horrible. And someone took me in at first, and so I was essentially groomed into a gang that, you know, were involved in nefarious means, and it was similar. It wasn't drugs, but it was similar to sort of the stuff you hear about county lines, where I was essentially a bit of a stooge, a bit of a runner. Here, go and do us a favour, and we'll put a roof over your head. That then I fled that eventually after I think close to a year, and it all come crumbling down. A few months later, there was phone calls from the police. You need to come in, otherwise we're going to arrest you, essentially. I was eventually sentenced to 12 months in prison, but because it was a first-time offence and I pled guilty, it was suspended for 12 months and I did 180 community hours.
Yeah. So what was the road to Damascus moment for you? When did you change?
So there was a couple of things, I think. There was my best friend's mum and dad took me in. And they were a little bit different from my mum and dad. My mum and dad was sort of very stereotypically working class. Mum was a cleaner, dad was a postie, no sort of formal academic qualifications, watched the news every day and all that sort of stuff, but, you know, they simple people that like simple things, essentially. Yeah. My mate's mum and dad were sort of university educated, read The Guardian, sort of liberally educated, but also they had a son with a disability, so they knew how to access the system and maybe things that you might be able to get out of the system potentially. My mum and dad had always worked and never sort of signed on or anything like that. So they said, you could go to college. You're not a daft lad, go and get your GCSEs, you'll get it for free because you're not currently in work, and go to uni and get yourself a degree and a career. And alongside that, I was trying to find work, but was getting a lot of pushback because people were wary of someone with a criminal record. So the straw that broke the camel's back, I thought, I'm trying to find a bit of part-time work to get by around college. And they said, well, the thing is, it's the law. We've got to be careful about data protection. And in my sort of naive mind at the time, I thought, right, I'm going to write to my MP. They can change the law. They're going to do it. We're going to, you know,
good luck with that.
This. Yeah, quite. I know now the difference. So in the end, I've always been a bit creative and a bit of a talker, as you'll know.
Yeah.
I thought, no, I'm going to interview my MP. I thought, no, actually, I'm going to interview MPs, plural. So I went around the country, essentially knocking on doors with a letter, explaining my situation, going, this isn't right. I feel like I can't get on in life. This is how people get pushed back into breaking the law. Yeah. So I interviewed Jonathan Aitken, former Tory cabinet minister. Andy Burnham took me under his wing because I had a bit of a go at him and said, you've agreed with me for the last 45 minutes of this interview. What have you done about it? Yeah. And he said, I like your attitude. Why don't you come and shadow me in Westminster? Yeah. So I went to Westminster. I thought, this is all sort of very nice, you know. And long story short, it culminated in Jonathan Aitken, despite disagreeing with much of what I'd said to him. He had fed into a review into spent sentence length that Simon Hughes, the then Justice Minister in the coalition, he cut spent sentence length in half. So I would only have to wait 5 years plus whatever I got, which was a year, so 6 years, rather than 10 plus the 1 year, 11 years, until I had to not declare it at a job interview or otherwise. So I thought, well, if a gobby lad from Stockport can change the law, imagine what I could do in the building. So that therefore began my political journey.
See, I agree, Matthew, with second chances. I think everybody deserves a second chance. Sometimes maybe a third chance, not always though, because, you know, it's all well and good. I used to work with homeless kids before I came into Parliament, or before I got involved in politics. I worked in a homeless shelter for teenagers, 16, 17, 18-year-old, and when they came in, they're normally coming from a care home or foster care. They've probably been kicked care since they were 4 or 5 years old. They've been pushed from pillar to post, not really had that love and affection of a family unit. And some of these were nuisances, you know, the behaviour was pretty poor. But when you actually dig down and talk to them and find out their history, there's no wonder they've been behaving like they had been.
No, and you see that in our prisons. I think the stat is 40% of young men in prison today have been in care at some point, and therefore I feel as a society or as a system we've failed them already. And I think that's why I'd like to see, similar to other European countries, a bigger emphasis and investment on prevention before people get to that point of prison or otherwise, because the main thing for me is I think it's just a huge waste of human potential. These people could go on and do great things if given the opportunity.
Yeah, but then, you know, when people do go to prison, for some people it's an opportunity to learn and train, but you need that support when you come out as well, Matthew, don't you? Because sometimes you just turfed out, here's 100 quid or whatever it is, and you're on your own. Wouldn't it be better, and I pitched this to the last government, but obviously they ignored me, is that when these people are in prison for what we could class as lower-level offences, that, you know, you actually say to these people, right, you've got a job in prison or in a factory near the prison, you're going to work, come back at night, well, we'll lock you up at night, but you're going to work and you're going to get paid for it. We're not going to give you the money. But when you come out, you can have that money, but that money goes on a deposit for a house, a few quid in the bank, and you've got a fresh start. Because when you come out with no money, no home, no prospects, no job, there's a big chance you're going to start committing crime again.
Yeah, I don't think it's the worst idea in the world at all. And I think there's something to be said for Category C and D prisoners, your low-level crime, of making prison conditions as normal as possible to replicate outside life, because ultimately you want these people to leave and be rehabilitated. The punishment is right, you should be punished, you have your rights taken away and otherwise, but you want to rehabilitate these people to come out, pay into the national insurance system, pay into the taxation system and be good upstanding.
So how did you become an advisor to the Labour Party?
So I went to university. I actually wanted to be a mental health nurse because I'd struggle with my own mental health, and because of my record, I couldn't go on the degree, so it was constantly in my way.
That's not fair.
I fell in. No, but I sort of get it. They wouldn't be insured, and I could be, you know, a bit of a reprobate still for all they knew. And I felt I'd proved.
But you could become like poacher come gamekeeper, surely.
Well, and I think there's an argument to be said of trying to retrain a lot of prisoners to be probation officers because they understand the struggles of what these people are going through. So no, I basically became political at university. What led me to join the Labour Party was actually Jeremy Corbyn.
Oh my God!
Yeah, don't hold it against me.
Listen.
You know what it's like.
He was going all right until then.
You know, you're at your most idealistic at university, and if I'm honest, regardless of anything, he gave me hope. Now, whether it was unrealistic is another story, but he gave me hope after I'd been through a fair bit, and I thought, right, this is something I want to try and be part of and try and help people. So. I stuck around post Jeremy, did my time as such, but I can't lie, I wasn't wholly convinced and fully supportive of the message we were putting out at the last election, and took my decision to sort of leave because I sort of predicted what we're seeing now, really, and wasn't totally confident we would govern well. Yeah,
and they're not governing well, are they?
No, we're not an unpopular government, but to bring it back to things like prison reform and homelessness, I think James Timpson was a very true appointment, and I've never heard anybody say, what a stupid thing that man did.
So is there a world where Matthew Torbett joins Reform UK?
No, listen, you never say never about anything, but I don't think...
He's not denied it.
I don't think Reform is currently where I'm at, and what I quite like is being a critical friend, not just to the Labour Party, but to all parties, and to expect better from all representatives, really.
Well, Matthew, lots of people have seen you on GB News over the past few months or so, but now they know the real Matthew Torbett. That's been great, mate.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Cheers for having me.
Coming up next, we've got Right versus Left.
Good evening, this is your Met Office weather update for GB News. Plenty more fine weather to come as we go through this weekend, some warm sunshine too, but do be aware there is the risk of some thunder, particularly in the southwest on Sunday. Currently the high pressure, which has dominated our weather through much of this week, still across us, but it's drifting away towards the east. As a result, a front towards the northwest is going to edge a little bit closer to us, but it's not going to make much progress overnight. It's really just going to bring a bit more cloud, perhaps a few spots of rain to the far northwest of Scotland. Otherwise, it's looking dry and there will be largely clear skies, mostly light winds as well. As a result, it could turn a bit fresh for some of us overnight. Some countryside spots could dip close to freezing, most places staying above this, but it is going to be quite fresh first thing tomorrow morning, and there could even be a few pockets of mist and fog around. But these will quite quickly clear. Once the sun gets up, it's going to burn any of those away, and it's also going to quite quickly lift our temperatures, so starting to turn turn increasingly warm as we go through the morning. Like I said, though, there is that front towards the far northwest, so that could bring a bit more cloud and a few spots of rain to the northwest of Scotland, but otherwise a fine morning and a fine afternoon for most. Lots of sunshine on offer, lots of blue skies, and in that sunshine it's going to feel pretty warm for most. Temperatures, if anything, a few degrees warmer than today. We're likely to get to highs in the high teens, low 20s quite widely, and some places getting into the mid-20s Celsius. But do be aware, like I said, there's the risk of some thunderstorms pushing in from the southwest. These are going to arrive as we go through Saturday evening and become a bit more widespread as we go into Sunday. Bit of uncertainty at the moment as to how widespread they're going to be, so they could push across more parts of southern southwestern England into Wales, perhaps the Midlands and Northern Ireland as well. Otherwise, and there's actually a lot of dry, fine weather around as we go through Sunday and into Monday and Tuesday, but just a few showers to be aware of.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
It's time for Right versus Left with Stephen Pound and Emma Wolf. Thanks, guys. Listen, this week in Parliament, again, lots of backbench MPs making a lot of noise about our hospitality industry, about our pubs. It seems like the pub industry in particular is being taxed to the hilt, and they're closing every single week. I've got some friends who are landlords, by the way, and they are really, really struggling. Is this Labour government on the side of the pub industry?
No, absolutely not. Let's just be clear. Running a pub is not an easy job. Running a cafe, running a restaurant, anything in hospitality has been a really, really tough job, not only since the pandemic, but with soaring energy costs, fuel, heating, lighting, all the things that you need to do. And instead of giving the pub industry, the hospitality industry, a leg up, instead of helping them out, supporting local pubs, just like local farming, the government, the Labour government, seems determined to make it really, really hard for them.
Look, today, let's have some good news. Tim Martin, who owns Wetherspoons. Wetherspoons have got about best part of 800 pubs. He said we're going to have a really, really good financial year. All the signs are good. We're going to actually make plenty of money this year. He's actually very, very optimistic. Look, we all know that, I mean, the pub is the community hub. No question about that. I love, you know, I've done a fair bit of research in my time in local pubs. No question about it. But what's actually stopped it? Drink driving was the biggest thing that actually affected local pubs. The smoking ban, yes, you know, that's you know, I voted against it, but that's how it's things like that. But Lee, look at a modern pub. The pub that I used to go to when, you know, I was young, when I was your age, was a smoky hellhole where you had like 3 or 4 beers. You could get a cheese sandwich with wrinkled, crinkly edges. Nowadays, a pub, you get food, you get different beers, you get different... Look at this pub we're in today. They offer good food here, they offer a whole range of... That is the success of the pub industry, not going back to some dingy 1950s...
Sorry, I have no idea why you're talking about the driving ban. What Lee and I...
a huge difference.
What Lee and I are talking about,
to be
why
fair,
not support... OK, the government can intervene to help out the car industry, good. They can intervene to help out the steel industry, good. Why not do something to help out the pub and the hospitality industry? It's a really tough job. And you know what? Pubs are the lifeblood of our local community. Often, no, in some villages, the shops close down, the local shops are closed down. You literally, the pub will do things like, it will help people out. It will check on, you know, check that local members of the community, older people, people living alone are still all right. It's a place where people come together.
But Emily,
they have quiz nights.
What about
they do
post
the post office. Things like that.
But hang on a second.
Support
You're saying
pubs.
you support the pubs, but not the post offices?
I didn't say that at all.
So who do we not support?
Well, British workers, it seems.
I'm sorry. The idea is, I entirely agree with the business about the importance of local pubs, but so are local post offices, so are local shops, so are local convenience stores. The government can't intervene and interfere with every single aspect of it.
So they can support Indian workers coming to this country, but they can't support local
it's not remotely
British
they can
industries.
They can support the steel industry because it is absolutely essential to the security and safety of this nation. Pubs are marvellous, no question about that, but compared to steel industry, compared to building warships, it's not even remotely comparable.
Stephen, there's money when they need it. There's money for the things they choose, and actually pubs are essential.
I'm sorry, you're sounding like a Liberal Democrat now.
Oh dear! How dare you? How dare? Listen,
Listen,
I mean, Stephen spoke earlier about sandwiches with wrinkly, crinkly edges. I think you're talking about yourself there, Stephen, weren't you? But seriously, mate, I mean, come on. When the steel workers have done a shift in their steel mill, doing this stuff, they might go down to a local pub and have a few jars, but sadly that's becoming less and less possible because pubs are closing every single week.
Well, hang on a sec. I mean, I worked at Richard Thomas and Baldwin's in Scunthorpe in the steelworks there, and you know we actually had the Working Men's Club there. I'm afraid it's called the Working Men's Club, but you know, those clubs still exist. I mean, my branch of the Royal British Legion, it's a place where you can get a change from a fiver for a good pint, and it's where we actually still exist as a community organisation. You can actually do it. The idea that somebody in the Labour Party has woken up one morning and said, you know, let's actually kill the British pub industry. That is for the birds. Come on, grow up and be realistic.
So why not support the pub industry instead of attacking them with jobs, with job taxes?
Are you saying we support
with
them, we support steel, we support the car industry? You know, the government can't support every single aspect of the British economy.
Well, don't attack them. Don't make it harder for them. Look at Angela Rayner's nonsensical, vindictive policies that attack British employers who are trying to give people a leg up, who are trying to give them some employment.
What's Angela Rayner done to attack British employers?
Have you seen how hard she makes it to run a small or medium-sized business in this country?
You talk to most business owners. They will
Talk to most publicans, they're on their knees.
They want to actually have a happy, motivated workforce, not a terrified one.
Guys,
I'm
listen.
sorry, would you rather have somebody working on Amazon, or would you rather have somebody working in a place where you've got trade union rights and some security of work? You get more productivity if you've got security.
Stephen, we're going to stop you there, mate, because I don't know what you've been drinking this past week. It's certainly clouded your judgment. I don't know what they've put in there, but...
He's on the Lib Dem Kool-Aid.
Yeah,
don't you
and
dare.
to be honest, mate, I think you need to issue an apology on TV for calling Emma a Lib Dem. That's beyond the pay.
I'm waiting.
That was actually, I do apologise.
OK, it's time for the yes or no
It is the
quiz.
ultimate insult, though, isn't it?
Stephen, you're not very good at this. It's a yes-no quiz. You know you're not, don't you?
Especially against me.
Nearly got him there. Anyway, let's go to the first question.
No.
Focus.
Stephen, focus.
Yeah.
Is the Indian trade deal a good deal?
Yes.
No.
Right. Should Lucy Powell resign over a dog whistle comment on the grooming gangs?
No.
No.
Ooh, agreement. Stephen, as part of the US trade deal, should we accept Harry and Meghan back?
No!
Was there a verbal tick there, Emma? There was a verbal tick, I think, but I want to give you that, Stephen. Emma?
No.
Ooh, that's a bit harsh. Emma, will Reform UK win the next general election?
Yes.
No.
Delusional. And Stephen, should we leave the ECHR?
No.
Emma?
Yes.
I don't believe it, Stephen. You've got 5 out of 5. Are you proud of yourself?
Is it tie break? Is it tie break?
He don't say anything, though.
Is it a dance-off?
Well, listen. I mean, I'm going to come back on one of these, actually, because the Reform UK one, will they win the next election? I think we probably will now. After last week.
The country is turning turquoise.
Yeah.
What is going on? Starmer is handing you gifts and presents on a plate, as well as the fantastic election of a female MP, which just gives it even more relevance to the whole country. Absolutely brilliant.
Votes.
So it's irrelevant. Don't start that.
Listen, it's not just 6 votes,
that.
Stephen. It's from a standing start. It's 14,000 votes. Let's get it right.
It's an absolute triumph. It was a reform quake last week, and you need to accept that.
You know what he's suffering with, don't you? Apart from the obvious. Reformophobia.
Of course
That's what you're suffering.
No, reform denial. He's actually in denial.
Can I just say congratulations to Sarah Poach, and I think she deserved to win, and fair play to her. And she won by 6 votes, and 1 vote is enough. But the idea that one swallow lead does not make a summer.
But you know what? During the last Parliament, Stephen...
Have you seen the polls today? What, a reform on 29%?
Yeah,
I mean, come on.
during the last
The
Parliament...
SDP were on 60% back in 1980.
Hello, hello.
Sorry, boss.
During the last Parliament, the Tories lost loads of seats to the Lib Dems. And they kept saying it's mid-term blues. At the next election, we'll win them back. Yeah, and Labour. You know what? They didn't win any back, Stephen. In fact, some of these seats in the Lib Dems increased their majority.
We've still got 4 years to go, right? And I've seen polls this week putting Reform all up 29%, and Tories on 17. Will the Tories even exist by 2029?
It's a big problem, Stephen, isn't it, for the Tory party?
I've got no skin in that game.
Well, but you've got skin in the Labour game as well. I mean, look at the Red Wall. Where I represent in Ashfield, the capital of common sense, as I always say, we went for 9 seats and we won every single one. And we got over 50% of the vote. In fact, my colleagues, my new councillors in the Ashfield part of Nottinghamshire, their vote share was higher than mine in the general election. Fantastic. And it just shows which way we're going. We're going up and up and up.
It is, but look, I think what we're in pick and mix politics now. Where you are, you've got Ashfield Independents.
They've gone. They've gone. We've got rid of them.
What we're now, it's no longer two-party politics. It's now 5-party politics, and I think let's grow up and recognise that. And do you remember Gilbert and Sullivan?
I think that's twice that they told you to grow up.
No, I said we.
You need to come back on it, mate.
But this kind of casual throwaway comments about pick and mix politics.
It is.
What? People are having a choice. People are having their say. Reform UK, whatever you think of them and whatever you think of young men like this, they have overturned the political landscape. We are no longer in the two-party system. And something needs to change so that people's voices are being heard. Because if we carry on just having Reform getting millions of votes and getting much, smaller sort of share in government.
I tell you what really does me.
This is a seismic shift.
This outrageous lie the Labour Party keep coming out with time and time again that Reform UK want to privatise the NHS. We want to charge people 15 grand for a hip operation.
And you can see they're running scared. Have you seen the amount
this is outrageous.
of adverse
Lee, you're not going to get that from me.
publicity?
Nigel Farage at one stage said we need to actually consider an insurance-based health system. I can't argue. We need to actually consider, because the NHS is not financially sustainable at the present time. I think the Reform UK is a marvellously left-wing party. They were talking about abolishing the House of Lords, nationalising the utilities. Marvellous, good, sound socialist policy.
50% nationalisation, Stephen, not 100%. So the private sector's got a stake in it as well as government.
Brilliant.
As well.
So what don't you nationalise?
But why is it these working class areas, these red wall areas now are coming towards us, Stephen?
Yeah, because you're offering a different alternative. You're offering a different vision for the future.
Well, offering them hope.
Yeah. No, fair play to you. But I mean,
people like their policies.
Lee, at the moment, you're writing cheques that nobody's cashing. Wait till you've actually got. You're running 10 councils now. Yeah. Let's see what difference in a couple of years those 10 Reform councils are to the existing councils.
You talk about writing cheques that no one's cashing. They're not. They're talking about basic bread and butter issues that people really care about, like mass, uncontrolled immigration.
I agree, but it's when you come to actually deliver. That's the issue. Reform and
Stephen, can I just ask you a simple question?
Yeah.
Do you think Reform UK will deliver?
I don't know.
Wrong answer. That was a tiebreaker. So Emma, will they deliver?
Yes.
You scoundrel.
So that's 6-5 on the top.
How dare you?
You've got to have your wits about you in the yes or no quiz. It never ends on this show. Look, coming up next, we've got last orders with actor Marcus Harris. Do not go away.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're thinking of heading south for a holiday, it is going to be very unsettled across Madeira and Iberia. Fairly blustery through the Greek islands, but some sunny spells in between any showers. A few showers for Italy, but mostly fine here. Likewise for Sardinia, but across Spain, Portugal and France, increasingly spells of heavy thundery rain. Likewise, we'll see some blustery showers affecting Madeira. It does settle down here over the next few days.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Well, that sounds like last orders at the bar. I've got Marcus Harris. Nice to meet you, Marcus.
Great to meet
now,
you as
in
well.
Parliament, I'm one of 5 Reform UK MPs, and they call us the famous 5.
There we go.
But you were actually in the famous 5.
I was, indeed.
In the 1970s. Tell me about that.
So there you go. Look, there's a picture of me when I was looking a lot younger, all those years ago, on the famous 5.
You can pick that up, camera. Which one are you? You played Julian. Was it Julian?
I was Julian.
Yeah, OK.
So I'm the sort of the tallest one. Well, not in that picture. I'm the one.
So a famous child actor back in the day, Enid Blyton's famous 5. How did that come about? How did you get that part in that series?
It was. I started acting when I was about 4 years old.
Okay.
So my mum and dad were always into amateur dramatics, and I sort of just piled along and persuaded them to let me up on the stage one day to do something. And I got the bug and carried on doing it till I was about, I don't know, 9, 10 years old. And then somebody knocked on the door and said, "Do you want an agent?" And I said, "Oh, yeah,
knocked
please."
on the door,
well,
literally.
They came up to me after a show and said, "Our friend Wendy Wisby runs an agency for children. Would you like to go up and have a chat?"
Yeah.
So yeah, I did. I went up and she said, "Oh, yeah, that'd be great." And then I spent a year going up for auditions for adverts and walk-on parts and bit parts and getting nothing, absolutely nothing. And I was just thinking, maybe I've misjudged this, maybe there isn't a part for me.
Yeah.
And then my agent called and she said, "Right, we've got something called the Famous 5. And I said, "Fantastic. I loved the Famous 5 when I was a kid. I read it all.
Yeah.
Was a kid.
Yeah, we did at school.
I read all the books.
Yeah.
And she sent me up. 5,000 children were going up for that first audition.
Wow.
And I thought...
A lot of pushy mothers there then, I would imagine, at those auditions.
I think there was less in those days,
Was there?
actually, but you could still see the stage school kids, because I never went to stage school or anything like that. I just literally signed up.
Yeah.
But I was a little bit pushy myself, sort of by mistake, because I went in for the first audition, and they were doing them as large groups at the time, and one of the kids in there was bouncing around like a jack-in-box and being a bit cheeky to Don Lever, who was one of the directors, and he was casting that particular day. And on the way out, I sort of tugged on his jacket and said, "Excuse me, Mr. Lever, sir, I know I might not get the part in this, but can I just ask you, do you prefer kids that bounce around like that chap was doing, or that sit quietly like I was doing, believe it or not?
Yeah.
And he just had fits of laughter. He just thought that was the funniest thing. Explained that he knew the guy from another show that they'd worked on. And I've got a feeling that that got me through the first sort of tranche of cuts through the first 5,000. Then when you get down to sort of the real late stages, 20, 30 kids left in the process, it's all about, does the family, does the brothers and the sister and the cousins work properly? And thankfully I did, and I got the part, and it was the most amazing couple of years of my life. It was absolutely fantastic.
So, is that how long it lasted for? Just a couple of years?
Couple of years, yeah. There was a push to try and write some more stories, but the Enid Blyton Foundation at the time said, nah, we're not, we don't anymore. Now anybody seems to be able to write for the Famous Five, and you get all sorts.
I mean, I do remember watching it back in the 70s. You must have got sort of a little bit of fame and fortune and getting recognised. What about school? How was that, going back to school?
They gave us a tutor and a caravan on location, and they said whenever you're not on set, you have to go back to the tutor. So I always found a reason to be on set. So I managed to avoid going to school for a couple of years, which was absolutely, I mean, being on set with all those people was an education in itself.
Okay.
So yeah, so I sort of managed to skip a couple of years, and then when it all finished and the day came to say, that's it, no more, and it was devastating. And I went away with my dad. He took me camping for a couple of days just because he knew I'd need to decompress.
Yeah.
But when I got back, the show was out and being played, and for a period of time, I was like, you know, people knew me. They stopped me in the street.
Wow,
and
must have been great for you.
it was amazing.
So what
really
happened?
great fun.
You know, as a child actor, what happened after the Famous Five? Anything?
I did a few more bits, little bits and pieces. I did something called Serve Them All My Days. But for me, what was the most exciting thing was potentially something called Pony Patrol. So Pony Patrol was like the Famous Five without the Famous Five name, and I got approached and I got given the part, lead character in this, which would have been something that would have taken me on into adulthood. But then ITV went on strike. They lost the funding, they pulled the plug, and I never got to do that. So
you got stuffed by the unions then?
Sort of got stuffed by the unions.
Back in the day. So we do see, Marcus, a lot of child actors. They have the fame and fortune when they're kids, and they go in films and TV series like the Famous Five. Then when they get to adulthood, it sort of dries up, and then they have to go and get, how can I put it, a proper job. Yeah, is that true?
Yeah, it happens an awful lot.
So what did you do then after you left school?
Well, I worked on the basis that I could always be, and I've remained a professional actor. I'm still a professional actor to this day, but you have an awful lot of time sat on your hands. So I got on building a career, eventually moved into my own business, and the thing about having my own business is, A, it's much more fun than working for somebody, but B, if I need to take 2 weeks off to go and do a film, I can do. And so long as I make sure my customers are happy, everything fits. So I've been running businesses over that time, and
are you still running a business now?
Oh yeah.
What are you doing?
Business. So we got a recruitment, contracting, consulting practice in IT. So yeah,
that's working, is it?
Busy. Yeah, that works well.
The government doing you plenty of favours in the budget?
It's challenging times out there, and it's a little bit roller coaster. With you think the economy's starting to pick up, and then it goes down, and then it picks up again for a bit, and it's doing this.
Well, I'm sure the Chancellor of the Exchequer watches this show. What would you say to her right now?
Please, can we have a period of sustained growth? That would be lovely. Thank you very much.
Grow the economy.
Yes, please.
Well, we want to try and grow the economy in this pub today, Marcus. We've got a pint pot there, the speckled one there.
Yeah.
It's the pint challenge. The old neck oil, which I think is that one there.
Right.
You have 30 seconds to pull a perfect pint.
I've seen some of this.
Yes,
I'm looking forward to it.
Go for
this
it.
one, neck oil. Yeah.
Remember, you're the actor, so you should be able to do this.
Here we go.
You should get straight into the character of a landlord.
No, that's not looking good.
Yeah, it's not good.
That is.
It?
Do you know what I thought?
Hey, just carry on, mate. Just carry on.
I thought I was going to be so good at this.
Just plonk it on the bar.
No, I failed.
That's it. That's it. Put it on the bar. Okay. If there's any parts coming up in a TV show for a landlord, I'm sorry to say that you probably won't get that. I'm going to give that probably 2 out of 10. And that's being generous, mate.
That is being generous. I'm not sure I would give it anything. And if I did that, my dad's
You've
part,
talked yourself out of 2. It's a 1 out of 10. It's pathetic. Why did you get into acting, and what are you doing now?
Acting was always something I wanted to do, and it's one of those things that I ticked. About 2 years ago, I had a massive hemorrhagic stroke where I got a blood clot stuck in my brain. I woke up in the morning, my leg wouldn't work, hit the carpet. My wife got me to hospital within an hour, and that's the only thing that saved my life. And when I woke up, realising I was still alive with all my faculties, I thought the one thing left, 2 things actually. One was taking a bus journey from John O'Groats to Land's End and interviewing people on the way, which I'll do one day. The second was publishing a book.
Yeah.
So I've written books all my life, and this is a copy for you.
Which is I'm going to take away with me on holiday in a few weeks' time. I'm going to go and sit in the sun.
Fabulous.
I'm going to lie on the beach and get fat and drunk and read this book. Well, anyway, briefly, what's it about?
So this, years ago, one of my businesses collapsed, and I remember, this is when I was in my 20s, and I remember driving my car thinking, I just want to get away from it all. I just want to keep going in this car. I just want to drive away and just get away from all my problems. I didn't really want to, because I had at the time 2 lovely boys, and I wasn't going to leave them and just disappear.
You having dark thoughts?
Oh, no, nothing, no dark thoughts like that. Okay. Just wanted to get clear of the problems that I had. This guy has built himself up so many problems, and he's got so many nasty people that are looking for him, that he does do that. He just gets to Reading on the train from London, and then he stays. He just stays on the train, sees where it takes him, and in the end he gets to Plymouth. He walks across to Kingsand Corsan, beautiful Cornish village, and he tries to make a new life, which he realises is almost impossible to do without any proof of identity and whatever. And then his old life catches up with him, including police and gangsters and all sorts of things. And then it is just a case of him getting clear of that lot before they get him and cause him a mischief. And that's the book, and that's my very first book.
Well worth read.
And that was what I wanted to do when I laid on my bed recovering from my stroke, was to get that book out and published.
Well done, mate. Marvellous story. Marcus, thanks for your time. That's
Thank you very much indeed.
Last orders. I'm going to read this when I go on holiday. Thanks for joining me on Lee Anderson's Real World. It's been another great show, great guests. Have a great weekend, everybody. See you all next week.
Coming up on State of the Nation tonight, it is the time where we remember what our ancestors gave for our freedoms. But are we today losing free speech and free expression? We're going to be talking about that. We're also going to be looking at some shocking new sentencing guidelines, which could mean that migrants escape deportation from this country. Are our universities becoming too dependent upon Chinese students? We'll be debating all of that. And lastly, we'll be looking at the new Islamist gangs taking over our prisons. We'll be debating that with an expert, somebody who oversaw our prisons for a long, long time. I'll see you in a couple of minutes.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening. This is your Met Office weather update for GB News. Plenty more fine weather to come as we go through this weekend, some warm sunshine too, but do be aware there is the risk of some thunder, particularly in the southwest on Sunday. Currently, the high pressure, which has dominated our weather through much of this week, still across us, but it's drifting away towards the east. As a result, a front towards the northwest is going to edge a little bit closer to us, but it's not going to make much progress overnight. It's really just going to bring a bit more cloud, perhaps a few spots of rain to the far northwest of Scotland. Otherwise, it's looking dry and there will be largely clear skies, mostly light winds as well. As a result, it could turn a bit fresh for some of us overnight. Some countryside spots could dip close to freezing, most places staying above this, but it is going to be quite fresh first thing tomorrow morning, and there could even be a few pockets of mist and fog around. But these will quite quickly clear. Once the sun gets up, it's going to burn any of those away, and it's also going to quite quickly lift our temperatures, so starting to turn increasingly warm as we go through the morning. Like I said though, there is that front towards the far northwest that could bring a bit more cloud and a few spots of rain to the northwest of Scotland, but otherwise a fine morning and a fine afternoon for most. Lots of sunshine on offer, lots of blue skies, and in that sunshine it's going to feel pretty warm for most. Temperatures, if anything, a few degrees